My 9-year-old daughter Abby has had a weird fear of mythical creatures for a while now. I blame her mother, my ex, for giving her unrestricted access to the internet at a young age. I began to grow tired of constantly having to check under her bed and in her wardrobe for monsters every time she stayed at mine for the weekend, and even had to invest in a nightlight to help her sleep. When she was younger, I was understanding. Lots of kids are afraid of the dark and things that go bump in the night. But as the years went on, this started to irritate me. It had gotten to the point where she didn't want to sleep by herself, couldn't sleep in the dark, and absolutely refused to step outside at night. 2 weekends ago, Abby and I fell out because she point-blank refused to take the trash out after dinner because it was dark. This led me to grow frustrated, as she only had to take 5 steps out of the door. But she dug her heels in. During that week, I decided enough was enough and planned to take her camping in the forest for the weekend to get her away from all the nonsense online and face her fears. I ordered Abby some walking shoes, hiking trousers, a thermal jumper, and some cheap t-shirts to pack for our weekend. Abby basically has an entire wardrobe of clothes that she keeps here, but I didn't want to hear her complain if her clothes got dirty or damaged. I left work a bit earlier on Friday to prepare, packing a bag for myself and my daughter for our trip. I loaded up the car and made my way to my ex's house to collect Abby. Abby greeted me at the door and I held out a carrier bag full of hiking clothes. "Hey you, go put these on." I smile, handing her the bag.
What is it?
She asks, peeking into the bag. "Walking gear. We're going on an adventure." As Abby ran upstairs to get changed, my ex Martha sauntered to the door, her new partner Steve following behind.
Hello, Paul. Hope you're well.
Martha smiled half-heartedly, with Steve offering me a nod of hello. We engaged in pleasantries for a while, when Martha asked me what our plans were for the weekend. "Camping," I tell her in a low voice, under the guise of a brisk hike.
Oh, Paul. No. You know what she's like with the dark.
Leave him be, Martha.
Steve chimed in, giving me a nod of approval.
It'll bloody do the girl some good. My father would have done the same.
Martha pursed her lips, as if thinking of a counter-argument, before her shoulders dropped in defeat.
Well, I guess. Just look after her, Paul.
She told me sternly.
She'll be all right.
Steve assured her before I could respond, rubbing her shoulder.
Don't you fret.
Abby returned to the door not long after. "How's it fit?" I asked her.
Well, the shoes fit fine,
She replied, lifting her foot out in front of her.
but the trousers are a little long, and the fleece is kinda big.
She wasn't wrong, but I put it down to the unpredictability of online shopping.
Looks all right to me.
Steve said, giving me a final nod farewell before my daughter and I retreated to the car.
Dad, this hike is taking ages.
Abby whined, her arms swinging by her sides. "It's only been a couple of hours. Usually you're full of energy," I chuckle. We carried on walking until we reached a large clearing. "Here will do," I announced, sliding the backpack from my shoulders. Abby looked at me perplexed.
For what?
"The campsite," I smiled. Abby's eyes widened.
What?
She snapped.
Tell me you're joking.
"Oh, don't be dramatic. Didn't you catch on when I got this huge bag out of the car?" Abby began to panic, explaining to me how it would be dark soon and that we needed to leave. "Hey now, calm down," I assured her gently. "We won't make it back to the car before dark anyways. Let's set up camp and we'll get a big fire going. I've brought marshmallows." The tent was set up, baked beans and hot dogs were eaten, and we sat around the campfire with marshmallows on sticks. "See? This isn't so bad. Isn't it nice to be away from screens and pollution?"
I guess.
"Want a soda?" I asked, pulling 2 cans of sugary drink from my bag. Abby raised an eyebrow.
After 7? You and Mom never let me have soda after 7.
I nodded. Yeah, I guess you're right. I thought you might want one as a treat, but like you said...
No!
Abby yelled playfully as I pretended to put the sodas away. I handed her a can, and we both resumed our places at opposite ends of the fire, our sodas letting out a hiss as we pulled the tabs. So, how come you're so scared of the dark? I asked her, pulling my packet of cigarettes from my pocket and lighting one. Abby ran her finger around the rim of her can.
You know why.
Monsters. Abby nodded without looking up.
Do you believe in monsters?
She asked me. I shook my head. Nah. Well, I mean, I don't believe in the kind of monsters you do with claws and horns. I believe some bad people can be monsters, though.
I don't believe in those kinds of things.
I raised an eyebrow. So what sorts do you believe in? Abby looked down at her can again, prodding the tab with her finger.
Have you ever heard of the hermits?
The what? I asked, a slight chuckle escaping my lips.
The hermits.
My daughter repeated. Can't say I have. Abby pulled her phone from her bag, opening a folder in her picture gallery and handing me the phone. I put my can down next to me and began flicking through. The first image was a drawing of a humanoid creature, but its ears were slightly pointed, and its eyes were pale white with pupils like a snake. It had locks of thin, white, greasy hair. It looked as though its nose had been removed, and it was drawn wearing only a white shred of cloth around its groin. The second one was a realistic-looking image similar to the drawing. It had long, sharp fingernails, and was grinning with pointed yellow teeth. It was thin and seemed to hunch over, with grayish skin and a hairless body. This image didn't show it wearing the shredded white cloth. Instead, it appeared to have a small bulging pouch similar to a kangaroo, where a human would have their reproductive parts. I scrolled to the next image, which was mostly text with two different sketches of the creature. One looked more male, and the other female, with a slightly fatter chest and a pouch that went sideways and a more flexible, hunched-over stance. I flicked my finger across the screen to the next image, which showed local statistics of missing children and hikers who vanished without a trace, with some locations and images of victims. What followed this image was a screenshot of written text. The hermits generally reside in woodlands and farmland, where they can easily acquire food. The hermit's usual source of food is bone marrow of larger mammals such as livestock, mainly cattle, horses, deer, and humans. Hermits are attracted to the smell of blood. Some say they can smell it from up to a mile away, although this hasn't yet been proven. The hermits are social predators, which follow similar pack rankings as we give to wolves. The hermits don't tend to follow the usual pack gender roles, with both males and females engaging in similar activities and ranks for both sexes. I continue flicking through the album, which showed more sketches, pictures, and grainy camera footage. They are pretty creepy, I admitted, but they're not real. There's been all kinds of folklore around since I was a kid. Used to scare me a bit too, but it's just make-believe. Abby frowned at me as I handed her phone back.
It's not fake, Dad. I've seen them. They roam the woods at the back of the house.
I chuckled. That's so. As I moved my arm, a pointy branch from the log I was sitting on snagged the sleeve of my fleece, pulling some of the thread out. Damn it, I hissed, raising my arm to inspect the damage. Abby suddenly jumped up.
Did you cut yourself?
No, I just got my fleece caught on a stick. Abby went into a tirade about checking my arm for cuts to ensure it's not bleeding.
They can smell blood. They target the wounded for an easy kill.
I looked at her and sighed. Kid, let's just get ready for bed. I turned in my sleeping bag, trying to get comfortable. The dim yellow beam of the flashlight, which Abby had insisted we hang from the roof of the tent, was all that illuminated our shelter. I was about to drift off when I felt my shoulder being poked.
Dad, I need a wee.
I turned and sat up in my warm sleeping bag. Okay, go ahead and take the light. Don't go too far.
Can you come with me?
Abby asked awkwardly. You're plenty old enough to do these things yourself, I told her, already unzipping my sleeping bag, knowing my fate was sealed. I grabbed the flashlight and climbed out of the tent, aiming the light at a large tree. Here, you take the light. Just go behind that tree over there. I turned around and took a deep, tired breath, feeling the crisp air caress my face. My daughter returned, her face pale.
Dad, something's wrong.
What's wrong?
I think I'm bleeding.
What? Where? Did you get a scratch? I've got a first aid kit if it's bad, and I can... Abby cut me off by pointing to her lap.
There.
She looked at me, visibly upset and uncomfortable. It took me a moment before it clicked. Yeah, no. Don't worry, it's normal. That's just something you get at a certain age. Oh, shit, what a place for it to happen. I retreated back to the tent to try and find something to help my daughter. Did your mom pack you any toiletries in your weekend bag? I called out to her, dragging my bag out of the tent. Abby shook her head, her eyes beginning to water. Shit. Okay. It's all right. Don't get upset about it. I've got a load of tissues and some bandages. That should see you through until we leave. Here, go in the tent and get changed into some clean undies. I'll wait out here. Abby vanished into the tent as I took some deep breaths, hoping I handled the situation okay. Abby came out of the tent a few moments later.
I left my weekend bag in the car.
It'll be okay. I'll wash everything tomorrow whilst you have a nice bath. I smiled. Abby offered me a half-hearted smile before her face fell.
They smell it.
Huh?
The hermits.
They won't. Let's try to get some sleep. I was woken by a scream. I sat upright, looking in the darkness at my daughter's sleeping bag. It was empty. I fought my way out of my sleeping bag and dove out of the open tent. Abby? Abby? I spotted the beam of a flashlight coming from behind the large tree Abby had used earlier and ran over. Abs, are you okay? Abby didn't reply, her shaking hand pointing the light into the tree line. I slowly took the flashlight from her trembling palm, rubbing her shoulders reassuringly. Sweetie, what happened?
I dropped my bracelet here earlier. I didn't want to wake you, so I thought I'd be brave and go get it.
Abby's voice shook with fear as she pinched her bracelet between her fingers tightly. Why did you scream? Did something scare you? I asked her, gently taking the bracelet from her fingers and putting it in my pocket. I expected her to say she heard a twig snap or an animal call. Abby slowly pointed in front of us.
It's behind that tree.
Confused, I raised the light to where she was pointing, just in time to see a figure step backwards out of sight. What the fuck? I said out loud, a mixture of fear and anger in my voice. But before I could think, I called out into the night, demanding to know who was out there. Abby clung onto my waist as we stood frozen in place.
Daddy.
Before Abby could say anything, a large branch snapping behind us caused us to spin around. I shone the light in all directions, unable to see anything. A screech rang out from the trees as we heard twigs snap all around us. Let's go back to the tent, I whisper. Looking back, I feel the shelter was a false sense of security, but I knew I had a small survival knife in my bag. We slowly walked backwards towards the tent, small embers of our fire offering the campsite a hint of light. My daughter began walking backwards to the tent when I grabbed her arm. A filthy, gray foot slowly disappeared into our tent. Abby gasped, unable to scream due to fear. Time stood still. I could hear my heart thumping in my ears as I held my breath. The crunching sound of a stick behind us was enough to break me from my terrified trance. "Run!" I hissed, practically dragging my daughter by her arm through the bracken and into the tree line. Screeching rang out behind us, but I didn't look back. I could hear heavy rustling behind us.
Daddy, they're in the trees!
"Just keep running!" I barked, my eyes locked in front of us, my hand latched tightly to her arm as I pulled her along. Abby tripped, causing my body to jerk and the flashlight to escape my grip. I pulled her back up in a second, and we continued fleeing, not wasting any time to pick up our only source of light. I desperately pleaded that this route would take us back to the car, or at the bare least, out of danger. But my stomach dropped, and I put my foot in front of me to hastily decelerate. The steep edges of a deep ravine, lit up by the moonlight, trapped us. "Fuck!" I hissed, rapidly turning my head in both directions before deciding to continue right.
Daddy!
Abby cried as I began to tug her, pointing to where I was pulling her. I looked. A long, gray, bony hand with sharp black fingernails slowly disappeared behind a tree in front of us. I stopped, pushing Abby behind me in a protective stance. Branches broke all around us as screeches took over the forest. My daughter gripped my hand as figures began slowly peering at us from behind the trees. Their long, thin, white hair hanging down, illuminated in the moonlight, and their eyes reflected the light like an animal. A low, rumbling snarl from behind us seemed to silence the forest. I turned my head to see a hunched creature hunting us on all fours, its head low to the ground. It got closer, stood on 2 feet, and sniffed the air before looking at my daughter and letting out a gurgling grin. Sharp, yellow teeth filled its mouth. I pushed Abby behind me, encasing her between my body and a tree. "Get back!" I yelled, holding my shoulders high. The creature looked at me, its slit pupils growing slightly as it slowly crept into the moonlight.
Daddy!
Abigail screamed. I turned around to see a long, gray arm latched to my daughter's waist, trying to pull her up the tree. I began punching, clawing and twisting the arm, desperately trying to pry it from my daughter. I suddenly felt a heavy impact on my back, and I began falling. The creature in the moonlight had hit me so hard I'd been thrown into the ravine. My body bashed against the rocky edges of the ravine as I rolled down the muddy edges and into an ankle-deep stream below. I tripped on the rocks as I fought to stand, a sharp pain in my foot as I twisted it falling. The screams of my daughter rang out from above. I desperately clawed at the edges of the ravine, grabbing at the roots and rocks to climb back up. But I couldn't. "Abigail!" I screamed helplessly, scraping my fingernails across the rocks and frantically seeking for somewhere to climb. The trees rustled and branches creaked from above me, the screeches of the creatures and my daughter's cries beginning to grow faint. "No! No!" walked through the ravine until morning light, when I found a spot I could climb. Dazed, I blinked into the sunrise. I continued briskly limping until I got to my car, plucking my car keys from my fleece pocket and collapsing into the driver's seat. I punched the steering wheel, tears welling up in my eyes as I turned the key in the ignition and began speeding into town. I filed a police report. Police didn't believe me at first, but eventually confessed they'd had a lot of strange reports from that woods. They believe it's a group of sick individuals in costumes targeting hikers and campers, even though I insisted that's not possible. No trace of Abby has been found. I live in hope that she got away somehow and will someday come back. Our campsite was discovered torn to shreds. Police did a thorough search of the forest and found the skeletal remains of some of the missing hikers. The bones had been snapped and were riddled with teeth marks. Police think an animal got to them. Martha blames me and has since demanded no contact. I can't say that I blame her. I couldn't keep our daughter safe. I'll live with that guilt every day. I wish I could go back in time and just stay home that weekend. This story doesn't end with me hearing things in the night or seeing faces in my window. I haven't been in the woods since, and keep my house well lit at all times. Abby, if you're out there and you read this, I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you. You were my reason to get up every morning, my push to get me through the week, and my reason to smile. Life isn't as bright without you. I've still got your bracelet. I keep it on my nightstand, so it's the first thing I see when I wake up, and the last thing I see before I go to sleep. Please, come back, Abs. I'm scared of cryptids too.